Hello everyone, my name is Prateek and on behalf of Microsoft, worxogo and Value Prospect, I welcome you all for this exclusive virtual workshop on how banks use behavior science and nudge to drive sales. Thank you very much for sparing your time and joining this workshop. Before we start, a few guidelines I would like to make you aware of. I would request all of you to please be on mute. The webinar is happening on Teams platform, so your names would be visible in the attendee list and the session would be recorded. Hope this is fine with all. We would be taking care of your questions during the Q&A session. Meanwhile, if you have any question, you can post the same in the chat box or you can use the hand raise option. With this, we would like to welcome our keynote speaker for the day, Mr. Nitish Nagori, former Senior Executive President, HDFC Bank, and Mr. Sanjay Ghoshal, co-founder and Chief Revenue Officer for worxogo. Today, at this webinar, we will learn how banks are using behavior science and nudge to drive sales. Over to you, Maulik.
Thank you, Prateek. Once again, a very good afternoon to everyone. This is Malik. I lead the business development at worxogo. A special thanks to Nitish and Sanjay for making this happen. Nitish, a question to you, especially, you have been in the forefront and you have been leading teams, especially with the largest private sector bank in India for more than a decade. And this is the time when organizations are talking about digital transformations in the area of sales. If you can uh, point out some of the key problems that large organizations are facing when they talk about digital transformation, and also what are some of the other challenges that people face at a ground level when it comes to sales, especially in the banking and financial services sector. Nitish, can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon, Malik. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, Nitish. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting for this exciting session. So your first question about the digital sales tools, how large organization, at least in the BFSI segments, what has been the adoption. So let me just quickly go back to how over the last couple of decades how Indian scenario has been. And obviously any of the large organizations or anything, I mean, you start with a identifying like a once you have your business plans, you design a product, you design your go to market strategy, you will probably look at your distribution and people. So over the year, the tools have been okay. If you find a potential in a particular market, you will probably add the manpower, create the entire ecosystem around it. Whether it's if you're in a financial services lending business, then the operations, collections, various such aspects, and you have a branch, and then you have various multi distribution strategies. Having said that, over the years and now the data science is playing such a crucial role. So once you have a critical mass, obviously a lot of digital adoption have started happening, whether it's analytics, whether it's CRM, whether it's lead management. So various such tools over the period, and now that large organizations obviously have a lot of data. So what you do is, because acquiring a new customer is always more expensive, that from a CAC point of view, but a cross sell or analyzing your own data and going creating a propensity model which is and targeting a right segment has been the adoption of a lot of the organizations obviously. Now one of the study obviously says that the digital adoption, the kind of spend that is going on globally also, I think organizations are spending on a SaaS itself close to whatever $250-300 for this thing, and 60% of that actually goes into the sales efficiencies tool. Uh, having said that, whether it's completely the adoption has been up to the mark, probably the answer is no. We as a country obviously are evolving, when it comes to Western world, we're still little behind in terms of some of these tools. But the real challenge that lies is, the whole chain of sales efficiency, because the person who's meeting a customer in the whole hierarchy is a much lower, he's more of a feet on street, which is probably transaction oriented, and probably, using multiple digital tools, because, the integration is also one of the big challenges. So there is a little bit of a lethargy, obviously, which is there. Uh, and in the whole scheme of things, you will always have 15-20% of your sales force, which is far more efficient, far more diligent. And if you look at that behavior, probably, the digital adoption in those segments are much better. Now, it's a human tendency. I think one of the challenge, obviously, as a manager is making people aware, driving the KPIs, making them understand what is expected, using that to their advantage. I think that's one of the biggest challenge for large organization, which large people on field. So this is something uh, is definitely a challenge. And from a sales point of view, you wanted to also understand. Uh, I mean, one of the biggest and most thing is when it's a large teams. Obviously, attrition is a big challenge. Almost 15-20% when we are talking about the lowest thing. And again, I'll go to one of the most famous statement where people don't leave organization, they leave their manager. So I think driving the teams to such finite expectations is very critical, and that's where the digital tools and adoption will play an integral part. So these are particular challenges as we go along. I think I can elaborate more, but uh, this is something, it's rather than, I would say, multiple systems, multiple tools, not having a seamless integration, not and there is a little bit of a lethargy that always there in the sales machinery. There are skews on typically month-end skews and various such things which actually hamper the effective productivity that one is desiring to. Malik, can you hear me?
Yeah, Nitish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, Nitish. If I hear you right, what you are saying is that yes, there are objectives, there are clear-cut, what do you say, milestones. The problem with large organizations is not the skill problem, but rather it is to do something with if you can motivate people on a day-to-day basis. That's my reading of what you are stating as a problem.
Uh, Motivate, guide, look for what is critical. The sales efficiency also comes in. I mean, rather than working on hundreds of database, but if you know the right segment, understanding the product is thing, which is where sorry, which is where the digital tools will play a very critical role. So you know, a salesperson gets motivated. The success breeds more success. So if you're working on large database and getting a very minuscule result, rather than that, more refined approach, and your efforts are, reward recognition is better, so then the productivity goes up. So that's something, a challenge which is, so there are multiple aspects to it. I mean, apart from motivation, obviously that's a very critical one, but guiding, understanding where to find your right sales efficiency is very critical.
So maybe it's also the ability of an individual or helping the individual to prioritize the right set of activities or things that he or she needs to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, one needs to know what is to be focused upon. I think, that is, these are kind of tools which are again critical. So it could be very simple, but consumer behaviors do change. uh, uh, it's not always that you buy the cheapest, but one, how it comes across, how you are able to solve a particular problem, whether you are asking documents multiple times, or understanding customer need. So I think these are solutions digitally can be solved to a large extent, and a particular transaction can get closed much faster. I think that is more critical than anything else.
Thank you, Nitish. Uh, Hi, Sanjay. So, Sanjay, a brief question to you is you have a great experience of having worked in the area of behavior science and having worked with large organizations. What are the different ways in which you can have people more aligned towards your strategies and get best of their outcomes? If you can throw some light on that.
Thanks, Maulik. First of all, thanks for inviting me, and good to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, so, if I understand your questions, you are asking me what has been happening in the banks and how we can solve the problems which Nitish brought out using behavior science. Would I be right in
Absolutely,
understanding?
absolutely, Sanjay.
Great, great. So, my background is I come from consulting background, like some of the other co-founders of worxogo. And one of the biggest frustration being a consultant was, what looked damn good in PPTs and Excel uh, didn't really get translated into reality. Meaning, uh, even if, let's say, even when you wanted to, carve out a digital strategy, when digital strategy is created, I remember for an insurance company to do the entire transaction through digital media. Um, we realized that after spending around 20 odd crore and training the entire, set of agency people, only 15 or 20% people were really using the tool. Meaning the rest of the people were carrying a notebook alongside diary, and they used to note down all the details of the transaction in the evening because it was made compulsory. They used to sit somewhere and plug in all the what do you call data. So in theory, digital adoption was very high, but practically digital adoption when for 80% people was not working. They were still using the age-old method. Likewise, we realized in our consulting journey the biggest issue, and I think everybody will agree, change management is possibly the biggest issue. Meaning you can create great strategy, you can create great processes, but ultimately, if it doesn't get implemented, then it doesn't give you the results you what you desire. Question is where do you want the change management to be? Is it at the high, meaning higher up in the hierarchy in the company, or is it the front line? The answer is obvious. Most of the work done, execution work is done by the frontline people. It is there. They have to be, change management has to be driven over there to make sure that they give up the old habits and acquire new habits which are required for them to improve their performance. Um, Having understood this, when we started our journey way back in 2016, we were wondering, okay, shall we create a digital tool which will provide more information? Tell me what I should do, and that's it. Meaning then I will do it. That means provide more information or guidance to people in the front line, and they should follow. And with this thought, we actually went to Stanford. We met various people over there. Dr. Babashev, who is a tenured professor, he asked us one question. Uh, Guys, I'm sure you guys are into health improvement journey. Uh, are you satisfied with your health improvement journey? All of us answered, no, no, we could do better. And then the second question was, is it because of lack of information or is it because of something else? The common answer was, no, no, we kind of know what to eat, what not to eat, meaning what to avoid, and what workout to be done. It is we don't get consistent motivation, daily motivation, so to say, to you know take those actions, not eat the wrong stuff, eat the right stuff, and do those activities or exercises. And of course, people who do, they get phenomenal results. So then he pointed out the problem is not giving more and more information. And it so happened that in that visit, we also met one of the banks, one of the top banks in US. They said that we don't have any dearth of information. We have our people are carrying today possibly 4 or 5 apps. The question is, are they using the benefits of these apps? The answer was no. So it is the You know, can you motivate people to actually change their behavior, adopt adopt digital tools if they are there, or whatever management wants to drive, and that, I mean, the frontline people, are they uh, accepting that, and are they showing change in behavior? So he told us that answer is not in providing more information, answer is in behavior science, and that's where we we kind of picked up the concept called nudge, which was at that point of time being, you know, made popularized by Dr. Richard Thaler. He also won a Nobel later on that. So we brought that, and we said that, okay, the most of the problems what we saw, most of them, not all of them, but very many of them, the answer doesn't lie in giving more information. Yes, information is important, but today there is a lot of information already available. Giving more information may actually create a problem of, you know, information overload. The problem is not technology led, the problem is behavior led, and the answer has to be you know, in behavior science. That's where we thought that nudge is a very good tool. Behavior nudge is a good you know, tool to drive behavior. The philosophy has to be today better than yesterday. Whatever I do today should be better than yesterday. Overnight change, if you're expecting things, doesn't happen. So how do you use nudges effectively? Now, what is a nudge? When in question comes, what is a nudge? I think we are very loosely talking about behavior nudge. What is a nudge? So again, Dr. Richard Thaler uses this example. Um, the Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam had a big problem. Meaning it was dirty. It used to smell a lot. Now, one of the economists, behavior economists, actually came up with a suggestion. He asked those people to put a sticker of a fly near the drainage in every urinal spot. And that was done. And over a period of next 3 months, the spillage came down, the smells came down, it became much more neater. So something, some kind of a, you know, information, verbal, visual, which works on my subconscious, which pushes me to change behavior. And there are so many examples of that. So that's the concept. I think we picked up. We worked with ICICI Bank. We worked with HDFC Bank. Nitish was kind of leading from HDFC Bank. One of the biggest problem at that point of time in HDFC Bank was, uh, you know, the skew, month end skew, meaning everything used to happen, meaning in the end of the month, 50-60% of the, you know, target used to get done absolute in the end of the month. And the big issue over there is, meaning if you're waiting till end of the month, you don't know whether what you're expecting will happen or not. That means things may slip. And he threw us a challenge: can you guys solve it through using behavior nudges? And we did that, and I think we got some very interesting results, very good results. Similarly, in the recent past, uh, we also used behavior nudges to drive digital behavior. That means, suppose you've got 4 or 5 digital apps and the adoption is low, use behavior nudges to actually push the adoption. And we have seen in some places the adoption went up from 30-35% to almost 80-85%. Yeah, we could never achieve 100%, but 80-85%. And we thought that was pretty impressive, and that also within 4 to 5 months time. So this has been our experience. I think there are lots of digital tools and which are very, very good, meaning it can add a lot of value to the organizations, huge value. But unfortunately, today in the banks, where there are large field force, uh, the justification is becoming a little difficult because of the adoption. Because driving adoption of these digital tools is becoming a big, big headache. And if somehow you can solve that, I think the kind of value it can add to, you know, the results, meaning in terms of performance, could be significant. And that's where we believe that behavior science can add a lot of value in terms of driving adoption of these tools. So that would be my take, Maulik.
Great, Sanjay. Sanjay, one first immediate question comes to my mind is, while you are talking about uh, motivating, or I mean triggering people to act on it with the help of nudges, does it hamper or does it affect my autonomy in any way? If I am a salesperson, will I get a feeling, or why should I be using that? Will I get a feeling that, okay, I'm being pushed, I'm being noticed, I'm being pushed, I'm being checked upon, policing? Is there a sense that you see?
Yeah, definitely. Meaning it all depends on how you design the nudges or other. You design the entire intervention. If the nudges come in the form of pure recommendations that Sanjay do this or Maulik do this, and the nudges also go to my bosses, meaning my boss also knows that this is the nudge which has been sent to, let's say, Sanjay or Maulik. I may feel that, wow, there is another tool which is kind of becoming a big brother and looking at what all I need to do. But if the language is changed and the language is more in terms of, feel good language, look, meaning motivational language, and things are put positively, that means, hey, Sanjay, you're doing well, but if you do this, you can do even better. The trick is to the way you form the nudges or form the entire intervention. You can drive autonomy or you can drive big brother kind of behavior. Both are possible. In workzogo, generally we stay away from big brother kind of stuff. We drive autonomy. We don't even make it compulsory for people to use the tool. Rather, effort is to make it so interesting that people start using it themselves. So if early in the morning I get a message, a visual as well as textual, saying that, Sanjay, how wonderful person you are, and if you do this, you can possibly, it understands what can motivate me, and it tells me, if you do this, you can possibly achieve slightly better than what you achieved before. There is a good chance I may you know not dislike it, rather I will fall in love with it. But same thing if it tells, Sanjay, yesterday you were supposed to do this and you missed it, now you better do it, then I may have a different feeling about the nudges. Have I answered your question, Maulik?
Yes, Sanjay. There's one more question which we are getting, and that is more to Nitish. So while Sanjay, you spoke about the adoption of such initiatives, Nitish, what was your experience, or rather, what was the experience of your people on the ground at HDFC Bank? Why would they want something like this?
So, as I mentioned earlier, right? You are a very large feet on street and already reaching. Obviously, the bank had a market leadership position in most of the product uh, that that was being handled. Now, see, there are few things which are very critical. And, from a aspirational point of view, from a hygiene point of view, at a feet on street, because you can't just multiply this by number of people. Beyond a point, you can't. If you wanted to do suppose x plus y, so it doesn't work that you just going to add another y set of people. With the same set of people, you are expecting a slightly better productivity by directing them and guiding them, because you know in any businesses 80/20 70/30 rules definitely go on. So people, there are these top 20% of the people which are performing really well. If if we slice it in a different, say, three or four buckets, so the bottom 20, the mid 30, and the next 30, if any of them, if you are able to improve their performance by 10-15%, you change the dynamics of the game. And I think that was the endeavor towards that. And as Sanjay mentioned, you use the right set of communication. It was never that you haven't done this, but somebody else did it and reached this. This is the more of a communication which helped the guy. See, by and large, I mean, that is my personal belief. By and large, we are all hardworking people. We want to achieve something in life, but it's all about pushing them, giving them the right direction, which will actually change into a completely different output. I think that was the whole objective. So, how you monitor them, it's more in terms of guiding them. Okay, at a manager level, the parameters were obviously different. What he's supposed to, what he or she is supposed to look into it, and ensure that the adoptions are, or at least driving the team in that direction, which will help. So it was never such a situation, and that's why we could see some actually, like Sanjay mentioned about, we broke down. Obviously, you just do suppose there was X target for the month, we broke down into week wise and just started monitoring in very basic ones. By the third week, if somebody is doing this, so we started giving some better rewards point, and which was more in terms of recognizing the effort. I think that helped, and it. I mean, you want more from the same set of people. I think that was the whole objective, and we're quite successful in reaching that.
Thanks, Nitish. A
Yeah.
question to you, Sanjay. How easy or difficult it is to have such initiatives at I mean, when you try to roll it out at an organization wide level, is it something which consumes a lot of, it requires a lot of heavy lifting?
Uh, well, as a as a person from worxogo, my answer would always be, not much. But I think it's best Nitish answers this question because he has successfully deployed it with a very, very large team. So I think he might be able to tell how much time and effort of the top management, senior management was required, or how much at meaning at HDFC Bank. Nitish, if you can.
So, so see, I would say that every organization will have its own set of challenges. Uh, Being a bank and all, you also have, regulatory compliance, technological. So those are, those are obviously those challenges which are there, and you have to walk that path. Having said that, management bandwidth, yeah, because there are multiple things that are happening. There are multiple projects, but you need to. I mean, we also started. We initially, I mean, it was when we were discussing it. Started as a POC. We did one or two market. We saw some results, and that's how it worked. But when we saw those results, and that's how the adoption happened. But yeah, there are definitely challenges. Every organization will have its own. Every industry will have its own challenges in terms of if it's any system integration, any such changes. Uh, Obviously, there are these things, but yeah, we were quite successful. In terms of we started with the proof of concept. We saw some results. We were able to tweak. It's not that right from day one. We were also understanding it. Uh, we started viewing the MISs differently. We started, and we could change those parameters. I think it was initial first few months was a lot of interaction in that journey, and we kept tweaking. And as we started seeing results, obviously the adoption. So we started with a smaller market, one particular thing, and then finally pan India adoption happened. Yeah, but obviously there are different industries, different challenges, regulatory. I think the newer organization will be much faster to adopt as the size becomes bigger. Uh, if there are any system changes and other things, yeah, that takes a little bit of a time.
Sure, thanks, Nitish. Actually, I remember when we started our journey with HDFC Bank, as Nitish rightly said, it took some time to get all the data, information security, and all those kind of things because these are regulatory requirements. But Nitish asked us one question, guys. I have quite a few things on my plate, so don't ask me to spend a hell of a lot of time. How much time do you want me to spend? You tell me first. Meaning that will depend. We said that, okay, Nitish, how about half an hour in a month? He said, okay, great, no problem. But what about my other people? They said that, yeah, you have to at least give one person who will spend some time with us. But I mean, we were very happy over a period of time. I think the whole thing, Nitish liked it. And while he said he signed up for half an hour, he used to give us decent enough time. But I think it was not a lot, meaning, I think we used to meet up once in 15 days and discuss
Yeah.
things with him and take his guidance and move. So that is the kind of time required. It's not like a consulting assignment, like you have steering committee meetings and lots of time to be spent. But yeah, some time is required.
Yeah.
Sanjay, one more question to you. Can you highlight some of the actual examples of how organizations are benefiting from such behavioral interventions, or maybe what organizations can expect out of these behavioral interventions?
So why don't I share a case study? Uh, I think 2, 3 slides I'll share. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see
Yes,
my
Sanjay.
screen?
Yes, Sanjay.
Yes, it is
So,
visible.
okay, I will not bore you with lots of this thing. So, uh, typically our use cases have been in personal loan, vehicle, auto loan, home loan, mortgages, and all those things are written over there. Not going to read through the whole thing, but a couple of examples. So, this is a large private sector bank, and this is for their personal loans team. So they split up the team into two. Part of the team, they actually where they deployed the worxogo app. Basically, they started using behavior nudges, and the other part they did not. So they wanted to check whether there is a significant difference. So they ran it for almost, I mean, actually for a year, and they found that people who uh, were nudged regularly had, meaning they were actually showing much better performance than the other team. Now, interestingly, when you start using daily behavior nudge, it also brings about engagement. That means I also, meaning if I get an behavior nudge, if I start accepting that, um, over a period of time, I'll also, my engagement with the company also goes up. So we have also seen um, the the turnover of people turnover is very high in generally in the frontline sales force field force. That attrition coming down, especially for the new joinees, because new joinees come in, um, if they don't perform within first 3 to 6 months time, they leave because they know that they will not be able to make much money, especially if there is a big portion which is linked to their performance. So they liked this because this is daily. It was kind of motivating them, kind of telling them what to do today, where to focus on today. So that was helping them. So this is one of the cases. Then so again, this is a collections team in another in an NBFC. If you see the first graph, it's a very busy slide. I'm my apologies. So this is resolution efficiency. The first graph on the left hand side, if you see, the effort is to push more and more people to do well. So as you see, 34% were in red, 47% in amber, and 19% in green. That means 19% were doing really good. 47% was just about okay. 34% definitely not doing well. And over a period of time, it became like 35% people started doing really well. The amber also increase, that is 52 47 to it became 52, but more importantly, 34% people who are not doing well, that percentage came down to only 13%. And how is it done? So just let's take the entire example. So let's say this is another large private bank. This is auto loans business. When we started, these were the KPIs which were given: disbursement value, disbursement count, lead conversion, meaning the leads were coming, how many of them are getting converted, CASA, how many of them were getting converted into current account, savings account customers also. Then login value, login count, RM activation, meaning this login value and all those things are more lead indicators. That means these are more activities you do to get the lag indicators or results like disbursement value, disbursement count, and all. So what we did was we took two teams, one in Mumbai, one in Delhi. One of the teams, they were pretty similar. One of the teams, we deployed the product. We deployed the workzogo tool, and we started actually sending them nudges on these KPIs. What the nudge engine used to do is check for every individual, let's say Maulik, which KPI or one or two KPIs are most important to him. Understand what can motivate him. That's the actually key of meaning the main thing. And then use this information to nudge that person and saying that Maulik, maybe disbursement count is very important for you today. And if Maulik is very competitive, it may actually use something like Maulik that look, there are 7 or 8 people have gone ahead of you. Why don't you do this on disbursement count and you can catch up with those people, or maybe move ahead, maybe in top 5 or something like that. So nudges were individualized, highly hyper, personal. Every person used to get, meaning gets a nudge which is different from others. Meaning that way, today there are 7,000 people who are using it in the team, and every individual is getting different nudge. Meaning no two people get the same nudge. So what happened after 3 months? So we ran it for the 3 months. We created baseline. Baseline meaning 65% of the people where the product was deployed were consistently kind of logging the meaning bringing meaning scoring on login value as required by the bank. That means 65% people were meaning showing good performance or satisfactory performance. Similarly, on login count, around 70% people were meeting their targets. Over 3 months, we saw 65 going to 82%. That means 17% movement. 17% more people started meeting their targets on login value. Similarly, on login count, 25% more people started meeting their targets. Now, these are lead indicators. But even on disbursement value, if you see, there is 18% growth in terms of disbursements, which happened. Meaning 18% more people started hitting their targets. And when we compared it with the other team, where the app was not, deployed, the difference was not much. So it was clearly coming out that people who were using the app were showing much better, performance within 3 months' time. So the idea is, so suppose the team is, you draw a distribution for the team. Let's say this is the blue distribution, where there are some top performers, very many of them are in the middle, and there are some laggards. The idea was how to shift this curve towards right. So absolute top performance may not improve a lot, but what happens is the average performers start improving and they start moving towards the right. And that has been our experience wherever we have kind of deployed. And the best way to figure out that whether this, so often question comes, how can you attribute? How can you say that behavior nudges have worked? Meaning there could be market conditions. And that is the reason we suggest that any initiative, if you really want to see whether it's working or not, use some kind of, A/B testing, meaning it's used in pharma industry in a big way. One group you experiment, that means expose them to the new methodology, whether it is nudge, behavior science, whatever it is. Another group, comparable group, for them continue life as usual, only monitor them to check, compare results at the end of, let's say, 2 months, 3 months, whatever time you decide. We have seen in 3 months time quite significant difference starts happening. So these are some of the use cases, Maulik.
Thanks, Sanjay. Now we'll keep it open for the audience to ask questions. I can see there's a question over here which is asking about what accuracy and sales predictions we should expect from past behavioral data. I know it's situational, but still.
What accuracy and prediction? I think the prediction from behavior data over a period of time, if you do look at behavior, my experience would be my take will be pretty high. Meaning I can't put a percentage on it, but it will be pretty high. But I think Nitish will be able to answer it much better because he's seen it happening practically. So
Again, it also depends on the kind of parameters that one is looking into. There are few actions would result into better this thing. But I mean, as Sanjay rightly pointed out, putting a number obviously is a difficult one. But any of this, if it improves by another 15 to 20% of your efficiency, whichever way we look at it, that should be. That's how we were, measuring this, because you're running a large sales force. There are multiple parameters, and one particular this will lead to another one, and that's how we were actually pushing this rather than just going for the top line. But if you do a particular cross sell, if you do it within this particular period, so that efficiency was coming by virtue of 5 or 6 different parameters. So I think collectively, yeah, I mean, anywhere between 15, 20 25% kind of efficiency, if you have to put a number. But I think that should be the way to look at it.
Thanks, Nitish. There's another interesting question which says, in the open metro market with selling life insurance and loan products, with the selling attitude facing full rejection, how to get results in such sales behavior aspect?
Uh, Sorry, I missed the last part. You're saying if the person gets rejection,
Uh,
right? Or
yeah, it's when the salesperson is facing rejection.
uh,
No, I think
so the
the
two.
question, if I may understand, is the scenario. Let's say if you take loans or insurance, there are lots of rejections which happen because of, I think, competitive forces. So many people are going and asking the same set of prospects to buy their product. So the salesperson may face a lot of rejections. So how behavior interventions can help? I think that was the question, if I'm not wrong. Maulik
Uh,
is
Yeah, I think so.
so Sanjay, you want to take that?
no. Why don't you? Why don't you?
So okay. So there are there are two types of rejection. One is the customer rejecting you. That is one, and second is your underwriting team rejecting a application. Okay, you have to look at two different scenarios. The latter part, which is your underwriting team rejections happening larger. I think that can really by just way of behavior, by way of understanding what are the exact customer needs and which is the customer where it will fit into. So some of it could be policy related, or maybe a little bit of a training which is more critical, uh, uh, and it could be if that can be guided very well, uh, I think the results will be far better. It's again the same thing. You have large data, you're using a lot of data science, but if you go after a wrong customer, obviously your rejection is, and that's what demotivates the salesperson. He says, "Okay, I put so much of effort, but the results are not coming in." I think that can change by just guiding, asking for the right set of parameters to be pushed. Uh, Customer rejecting, again, that could be multiple factors. Uh, uh, I mean, it can be as basic as just a clear sheer discipline issue. I mean, a person doesn't reach on time, or doesn't carry himself very well, he fumbles, or he's asking for more document. I think all of that can also. I mean, if your product is not marketable, if you are completely outpriced and something, obviously you're going to face those kind of challenges. But in a like-to-like scenario, at least a little bit of a competitive offer that you have, but it's the approach, it's the behavior which would, as I mentioned earlier, also, we've all been salespeople. When we also buy, we don't buy the cheapest of the product, but you like the way the person comes across, his understanding, his knowledge, his ability to resolve your issues, his ability to provide a solution. That matters a lot. So I think the rejections can really come down if it's guided well. These are parameters, I think. Sanjay, you want to further elaborate this? I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think very well said, Nitish. I mean, I would also agree. Pure, simple behavior nudges alone may not improve the conversion rate per se. If your product is not good, or if I don't know how to sell, let's say. But what it can improve is how do I approach. That means can make me more disciplined. So if I do the more right stuff over a period of time, it should result in better conversion. And another important aspect is, if you know, I mean, typically today's training programs are designed in a way that same training is given to everybody in the field force. But if you know that there are some set who are really putting a lot of effort, but somewhere they are not converting, you can actually start looking at minutely why such people who are really doing a lot of effort, putting a lot of effort, but they are unable to convert. Either they are not salesmen at all, meaning they are wrong, uh, completely wrong fit for the job, or otherwise maybe they need training in terms of how to present the product or those kind of stuff. So there are some rich insights which may come out through this. But what I think behavior science can do is improve upon, bring about discipline on how to approach the sales job. So that would be my take.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, Nitish. I would like to request audience if they have questions, they can just unmute themselves and they can ask questions. I think there is a question from Bijoy. Bijoy, if you can read out your question or speak out about your question, it'll be good. Bijoy has a question, Sanjay, which reads how to overcome the challenges of frontline sales guys to develop their bandwidth of adapting the changes like process, more digitization, especially from rural markets.
Yeah, interesting. Actually, we work with one of the collections company long time back, and this collections was primarily in the rural India. And we figured out something that the behavior nudges worked equally well for the rural people as compared to the urban. There were, however, there were some few nuances which were different in the sense the more urban people were more concerned about what the other guy is getting. That means always comparison with peer was a big thing for people who are in, let's say, Mumbai or cities, whereas rural person was not too much worried about what the other person is getting, but was more worried about what he or she was getting. That means we call it in behavior science self-referencing. So that was one something significant which we understood over there. And then nudges were also curated to actually work on that aspect rather than throwing a lot of data about leaderboard and other people are doing well. Very few people in rural setup were actually interested in knowing how other people are doing. But results were pretty decent. Nitish, your take?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that, whether rural to urban, the behavior was any changes. If there are technological challenges, obviously, information, so that's beyond. I mean, that's something. I mean, we're doing businesses in hilly regions, and there have been challenges such as 4G, 3G, those kind of things which are there. That's a separate issue altogether. But otherwise, from an adoption point, in fact, our experience in the deeper geography markets were far better because a lot of time it's a single person handling it. So his or her commitment levels on some of these initiatives were far higher. So I don't think there was any such challenge that we kind of saw. Technological nuances, yeah. I mean, those kind of things which are, I mean, that can get sorted. That gets sorted out over a period of time also.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, Nitish. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Pratik, I think we are about time. There was one question which came up which says, is it possible to connect at a later point in time? If so, how?
Malik, you're the best person to answer that question.
I'll post it in the chat. Yes, you can reach out to us at anytime at sales@worxogo.com.
Or you can also give your coordinates, Malik. They can reach out to you directly.
We'll wait for a minute or two before we close.
Sure.
So once again, Nitish, Sanjay, thank you very much to take time out for this discussion from your busy schedules. Really thankful to you. Thanks, Pratik and team, for organizing this.
Thanks, Maulik. Thanks, Sanjay and Nitish, for your time and presentation. as well as thank you everyone. I hope you had a productive session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Malik.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Sanjay.
you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.